Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to all our 12th Monarchs out there in Monarch Nation with our first press conference of the 2014 season and what should prove to be a historic year for Old Dominion football. Our first year as a Division I program, our first year in Conference USA, and something we are all excited and looking forward to. We've spent the previous 22 days in preseason camp. Really excited about what happened coming out of camp. This was the most players we've ever had. We welcomed 105 players back to our camp. The previous high we'd had was 90, and just tremendous competition throughout the camp. I feel like this is the best depth chart we've ever put together, which is really a compliment to the coaches, what they did in recruiting and developing the players, and also to our student athletes. The way they attacked this summer, they prepared, they came back. This is a very good group we're bringing back to our team this year. Of the 105 players we have now going into this season, we've created some tremendous competition, and myself and all the assistant coaches, it was a major challenge trying to pare this down to a group of about 70 players that'll be dressing Saturday night for the game and on our travel team. And right now, of the 70 players that we have, 42 of them are returning players. They're veterans that have played, whether they be seniors, juniors, or sophomores, guys that played for us last year. We have 28 first-year players on this football team this year, and 20 of them on this travel squad are brand new. 8 are players that were redshirted last year in that class, and will be also playing for the first time. So 42 veterans and 28 new players to our roster. I'll start with the special teams. We feel really good where we are right now with our specialist. Ricky Seegers has taken control of the kicking position. He had an outstanding camp. He'll handle our kickoffs on our kickoff team. He'll handle all our extra points in field goals. He's really improved a lot over the season. The fact we were able to redshirt him last year, Jared Brown's senior year, give him a year to develop. He's done an excellent job in camp, so I'm excited for Ricky. Joe Polisic has earned the starting punting job. Joe's improved. He's still got a lot of work to do with that. We're still working with him on his operation time, his hang time on punts. Trying to do a good job with that, but Joe's earned the punting job, and then we're very fortunate to have Rick Lovato back as our long snapper. Rick will be a 4-year starter going into this year, and he's an excellent performer for us on special teams. Speaking to our defense through the camp, I feel like we've got tremendous competition for jobs right now. I don't feel like at this point where we're going to get to on defense, but the competition has made us better overall as a football team on defense. Of the 35 players right now that are scheduled to be on the travel squad for this first game, 25 of those players have experience. And the majority of those players were true freshmen last year. 13 true freshmen played last year on defense, so they're back now. They've had a year of off-season conditioning, spring ball, summer workouts, so those players are much improved, and that'll be invaluable for our team to have that experience now on defense, which we certainly did not have last year. In the defensive line, that's our most veteran group right now on our football team. 10 of those guys in the defensive line played last year, and then we've also got 3 new players that have earned the right to be in that competition. So Coach Comissione's in a good position right now with the defensive line in terms of having players that have experience. You know, we've got guys who started games last year at that position that are now either second or third on the depth chart because of the competition. And based on our system and how we play, we're going to play 8 to 10 guys in the D-line per game, and I'm confident that group's going to be much more improved. It all starts up front. At linebacker, we've got 9 veterans that are back, 9 guys that have played football, and then we've got 3 new faces in that group. In the secondary, we've got 6 veteran players that return, guys with some good experience, guys that have made a lot of tackles back there, and then we've got 4 new faces in the defensive backfield. So overall, right now, our initial group that we're looking to take into the Hampton game, 35 on the travel team, 25 have experience. I'm gonna stop here momentarily because we've got a very special group that just came in and joined us right now. This first press conference, we like to honor our veterans, or part of our Wounded Warrior program that will be with us this year during games. I like to say we've got some heroes amongst us that we're all incredibly grateful for what they've done, and because of heroes like this over here to my left. Brandon, can you put the camera over here? Can you get the heroes? We're allowed to do what we want to do and live in the greatest country in the world. So would everybody please join me in welcoming our heroes with us today. And because you're the special guest, you don't have to wait if you're hungry. Help yourself. You won't bother me at all. But really excited to have you here, and we'll look forward to having lunch with you after. Moving from the defense over to the offensive side of the ball, there's a lot of new faces on the depth chart offensively, and areas we're trying to create depth right now, particularly in the offensive line, where we lost 3 seniors last year that were all NFL prospects and good players for us in the offensive line. Right now, overall, offensively, of the 32 players that we're talking about right now being on that initial travel team, 17 have experience, led by our quarterback, Taylor Heineke. And if you're going to welcome some new faces to an offense, you want to do it when you've got a veteran quarterback, and that's something that we all feel very good about. You know, Taylor understands that he's working with some new guys in that group, whether it be at O-line, running back, or wide receiver. He understands what we need to do, particularly early in the season as we develop on offense. So having a veteran quarterback is critical. It starts up front. If you're going to be successful offensively, you've got to have a successful offensive line. And we've got 7 veteran players back there in the offensive line. You know, as new as we look up front, there's some good football players with experience there, led by Josh Mann, senior captain. That's the one position. If you'd love to have a veteran amongst the new faces, it's at that center position, which we've got with Josh Mann up front, who's an outstanding football player. There'll be 6 new faces up there that you'll see that'll be involved. It's a good group. It's a good group of players, good group of kids, and that'll be a work in progress, particularly early in the season as we develop up front. At the running back position, we've got 2 veteran players there that have played good football for us, in Gerard Johnson and Cam Boyd, and then we've got 3 new faces that we're looking forward to getting involved there. Overall, that's a talented group. At the wide receiver position, there's 5 veteran players back at that position. There's been a lot of talk about who's not here and the new players coming in, but there's some excellent football players at wide receiver, led by Antonio Vaughn and Zach Pascal. Those 2 guys have combined for a lot of catches, a lot of yards for us. There's 5 new faces in that group. Nick England, who's a transfer who set out last year, that we expect to be a good player for us. And then we've got 4 freshmen that we're going to work into the mix at the wide receiver position. But that's an explosive group. And the one thing you can always count on around here with our style of offense is that the wide receivers are going to be productive. 8 to 10 guys are going to play because the amount of plays we run and the system we run. And each year there's always somebody, 1 or 2 guys that comes out of that group that catches everybody's attention. So I expect it'll be the same this year. Speaking to our first opponent this year, Hampton, they've got a new coaching staff. So the biggest challenge that comes when you play an opener against a team with a new staff is you don't have reliable video that you can watch. You try to research the coaches, where they come from, style, philosophy. You do a lot of work on the players that are returning and who might be involved. But the one thing we know about Coach Maynor, who came to Hampton from Winston-Salem State, is he's used to winning. He had a 45-6 record as a head coach at Winston-Salem, and we've been 46-14 around here, which we think is pretty good, but 45-6 is better than that. So the challenge will be the uncertainty of the game plan. That will be our biggest challenge going into this game. It's going to be critical that the coaching staff and the players, particularly in the first quarter, that we get a good handle on what they're trying to do in all 3 phases in the game. You know, we've played Hampton 3 times to this point. 2 of the games were decided late in the fourth quarter. They've got outstanding talent on their roster. We know a lot of their players because we follow their program, whether we play them or not. And Coach Maynor and his staff did a really nice job putting together a good recruiting class, considered how late he was hired, whether it's high school players, transfers. So there's going to be a lot of new faces on the roster, but I'm sure this will be a challenging game. It's one we'll be prepared for and be excited to play. It's the opener. It's the first game of 2014, and it's historic from the sense it's our first year as an FBS team and first year joining Conference USA. So we're all looking forward and anxious to getting it started. And at this point, I'll take questions.
Hey, Bobby, you talked about not knowing very much or not having reliable video of Hampton. So do you go back and look at Winston-Salem State video and sort of how do you prepare a game plan? Or do you even look that closely and
Right.
more focus on yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dave. We've done that. We've gone back to look at some Winston-Salem State video to try to get a sense of Coach Maynor, some of the guys that came with him from that staff, philosophy, style. And then we spent a lot of time studying their video from last year because they've got some good returning players on that roster. So to try to get a sense of the roster, the personnel, how their kids perform. They're talented. This is a talented football team. There's, like I said, we know a lot of their players because we've either followed them in recruiting, we followed their career because we follow Hampton, Norfolk State. We watch how they do. We pull for them when we're not playing them. So we've done both of those, Dave, where we've looked at their Winston-Salem State video and then studied the Hampton video.
What kind of fall has Heineke had in terms of just the extra things you kind of thrown onto his plate in terms of play calling and freedom at the line now?
He's had a very good camp. He's been really sharp in camp. The one thing that Coach Whitcomb, who works with quarterbacks, Coach Scott have been emphasizing to him is continue to work to get the ball out quickly, to try to keep us on schedule. He's done a good job with that. He's done a good job of running when he needs to run. Although we don't have him run a lot in camp, and as I always say, we don't have design runs for him in the offense. Yet every year, when you look at the stats at the end of the year, he's got 500 yards rushing and 10 touchdowns because he knows when to tuck the ball away and go. So he's been efficient in camp. Our biggest emphasis with him, Dave, will be very consistent to what we've done with him since he's a freshman, and that we'll talk to him about just finding a way to get that first down. Find a way to get that first down and get the drive going, because we're a very efficient operation when we get that first down and we can go fast and get the tempo. It's been a challenge for him with a lot of the new faces. He's had to try to work with 5 new receivers. I throw Nick England in there even though he's had some time in practice, but it's new for Nick also, and then the new running backs and getting a sense of the new offensive line. But it's going to be the same for Taylor. He's going to have to work his way into it with some of the new faces, but really pleased with what he's done in camp to this point.
Do you still think that you can play with the new faces and the tweaks to the offense? What's the aim as far as tempo and speed and how many plays you guys are aiming for?
Yeah, our goal will be similar to what it's been in the past, is to try to play with as much tempo as we can. And then what we always do, and Coach Scott and the offensive staff do a good job evaluating this during the game, we'll only go as fast as the kids allow us to go. And that's based on their knowledge of what they're doing. Are we having success with what we're initially doing with the game plan? That first game, the biggest concern, like I said, particularly with new coaching staff, is what are we going to see? Because the grease pen will be flying in that first quarter on the sideline if we don't see what we think we're going to see. The coaches will have to make adjustments, but the tempo is always try to go as fast as we can, try to run 80-plus plays a game, and then we'll react, Dave, to our players, and how much they can handle and how quickly they can handle it.
Bobby, preseason publications have predicted you'll finish everywhere from 4-8 to 11-1. Because I think there's just a lot of mystery about Old Dominion in an FBS league. What is a successful season in your mind for this team?
Right. Well, first of all, I didn't write the 11-1, Harry. That didn't come from me. All right. In terms of a successful season, we've come to expect every year that we're going to be on the winning side of a record. That's just the way we've been around here from the start when we were 9-2 to even last year when we were 8-4. So the expectation is always, particularly when we're in a conference, which, as you know, this is only the third time in 6 years we've been in a conference. But the expectation is we want to get into November and have something to say about the Conference USA Championship. We want to be involved on the eastern side of the division. Because one of the great things about Conference USA and now being in the FBS is you got an East and West. So if you're there at the end and you win the East, you play a 13th game on December 7th, and we want to be involved with that. You know, that's the goal, that's the expectation, and then on top of that, to be in consideration for a bowl game. So I haven't talked to the players or the staff about a number of wins. It's just, let's be there at the end of November. Let's be there in the conversation for the Eastern Division title of Conference USA, and you know, that's a tall order. It's going to be a tremendous challenge to be there when we get to November, to be in that part, particularly with how front-loaded our schedule is in Conference USA. You know, we're playing the top 3 returning teams from last year. That's who we play right out the gate, and we got the defending conference champion on the road in our first league game. So that's going to be a challenge. But if we're there in November, Harry, then this is going to be a successful season if we're still in that conversation when we get in the month of November.
Any other questions for Coach?
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's great to have you here this first one. Looking forward to kicking off on Saturday against Hampton in the first ever season at FBS and Conference USA for Old